to Cooking for the Future President, our live event. Thanks for joining us, and thanks also to our sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for making this event possible. We're super happy that you're with us today. I want to go over a few logistics before we get started. Remember, if our stream drops, be patient. It'll probably come right back up. Second of all, we have a lot of resources available to you that talk about the lesson we're going to be doing today, the event we're going to be talking about, lesson plans, activities. You can get to those on our website. Finally, remember, ask questions. You can type in your questions anytime you like on the comments section on our YouTube page. We're going to answer your questions live at the end of the event, but you can ask them whenever you like, and we'll try to get to all of them. My name is Sally Bloom. I want to welcome you to the North Carolina Museum of... Wait, we're not at the North Carolina Museum of History in Raleigh, where usually we do our live events. Today, we're at a North Carolina State Historic Site. What's a historic site? Well, North Carolina is really fortunate to have 27 unique places around the state for you to visit, to connect with your past, and to make connections to today. When you visit a North Carolina State Historic Site, you might be in a gold mine. You might be on a steam locomotive. You could be in a battlefield, a battleship, a palace, a plantation, a farmhouse, a school, 27 amazing places for you to explore. North Carolina State Historic Sites want you to travel, and when you do travel, think not only about tomorrow, today, but think about visiting your past. So, which is the first state historic site we're visiting for a live event? Today we are at the President James K. Polk State Historic Site in Pineville, North Carolina. And to help you learn more about this historic site and the stories it has to tell, I want to introduce you to Scott Warren, who is the site manager here at President James K. Polk State Historic Site. Scott, thank you so much for having us here today.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. So tell me, what is the story of the site?
Well, the site that we have here today is about 21 acres of the Polk's original 150-acre farm that they started off with. Back on Christmas Day 1794, Samuel Polk married his wife Jane Knox, and as a Christmas present from Samuel's father, Ezekiel Polk, he gave the young couple 150 acres. So that's what we have here today. We have 21 acres of that original 150-acre plot.
Very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. And so we have buildings here. So how did the site get started?
Well, the site really got started, and we have to give a lot of credit to the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution.
Okay.
They were really instrumental in really, identifying the site as a need for preservation. They started that in 1904 and actually erected a monument here to commemorate the Polk birthplace and James K. Polk's young life here on the farm. So it really started in that manner.
All right, and then the buildings here. Tell me about that.
Well, the buildings themselves, a lot of people come to the site and believe that these are buildings that we created, but actually they're from Mecklenburg County. They're authentic to the county itself. The main building here behind us, the bigger cabin, dates about 1830. And it's called the Coffee House, the Coffee Cabin. And then eventually we'll be going over into our reinterpreted kitchen house, but it dates about 1820, a little bit older than the coffee home. And so these are authentic to the county, authentic to these families who settled Mecklenburg County and really played an integral part in the early history.
So when was the site open?
The site was opened in 1968. It was a grand affair. Lady Bird Johnson was here.
Wow.
Governor Dan Moore was here. So it was really a big commemorative kickoff to the history of the site. And this being 2018, this is actually our 50th anniversary of the site being open.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That is wonderful.
Yeah,
That's so neat to think Lady Bird Johnson was here.
Oh, I know. And some of the pictures from her time here are just outstanding.
That's great. That's great. Well, can we learn more about the Polks? Can we go in?
Sure, yeah, let's go in.
All right, thank you.
So as you heard me mention earlier, the Polk certainly started off their life quite well together with that 150-acre farm.
Yeah.
Now, President Polk, James Knox Polk, was born into the family on November the 2nd, 1795.
All right.
He was the first of 5 children that were born here in Mecklenburg County. Now, the Polks eventually did move out to Tennessee in 1806, and once they got out to Tennessee, starting in 1808, Mrs. Polk had 5 more children.
Wow.
So there was 10 altogether, but James was the eldest of that family.
And it was born in this,
And
on this farm?
on this farm, right.
Absolutely.
And he grew up here, right?
So
the
his
first
young boy
11
here?
or young boy here, doing, as you can imagine, all the chores that had to be done on the farm, gathering water, taking care of animals, and going to school as well. So certainly a humble beginnings for our future president.
So in a house like this that he would have lived in, what would have gone on here?
Well, here, this is really, you know, here on the, we're actually on the first floor of the cabin. There's actually a second floor to the cabin itself. But here in this main room, it was really very encompassing. I mean, you had a drop leaf dining room table that would you use for your dining room here. You would have mom and dad's bed out here in the main living area. You would have little ones out here too. The reason this room was so popular was because it was the only source of heat. The hearth here in the main living area. Right, so this was certainly a very important room of the house. Now it also had back bedrooms here, which you know, could have been used for the older children, maybe even visitors who came to see the Polks in their day and time. And then the upper floor could have been used for a variety of reasons. I have you know, read and understood that a lot of times women would use have their looms and spinning wheels upstairs, so that maybe as a
textile
workspace,
production, fabric production,
right,
very important.
because certainly you needed to produce, you know, clothes for your family.
All the time, right.
Yeah.
Making cloth is really a year-long process. It just never ends.
Right.
Never ends. Yeah, I don't know if we can get a close look. I've got the Sally Cam. I don't know if I can get that up, but I'm going to look around a little bit at some things.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I see a cradle here, so with 5 children, you said 5
right,
born
5
here?
children here.
So the cradle would have been busy a lot.
That's true. That's
and we've got the hearth place.
Right, yeah.
Writing instruments.
And if your camera could pick it up, you know, some of the details, you may have seen the nice walls, you know, the finished walls, some of the nice chair railing that's around the room. Certainly signs and symbols that, you know, the family that lived here had a little bit of money, some nice luxuries they could afford.
So this was, kind of a middle class.
It was. We consider the Polks in this house particularly, you know, upper middle class for that day and time.
Wow.
Certainly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you told me this was a dining table, and I got to tell you, no kids, if he was a 10-year-old boy, say, and 10-year-old girls for that matter, are hungry frequently.
Right.
So is the cooking going on in this hearth?
No, actually, this hearth was just meant for heat, for warmth, keeping the house warm. Really, all the cooking would have been done next door, over in the smaller cabin that we have here on the property.
All right.
If you'd
so
like,
can we see that?
Yeah, we could start making our way over to the kitchen house.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, why would it seems to me that it'd be a little inconvenient to have your kitchen somewhere else. Why would the kitchen be over here?
Well, really, for Sally, for 3 big reasons.
Okay.
One, you know, here in the kitchen house, you have constant heat.
Okay.
So you've got heat in the you know, in the summertime, in the middle of July. You've got heat at this time of year in the middle of January.
Right.
So you really didn't want to, you know, heat up your home.
In North Carolina summer.
Right.
You really
90
don't
degrees,
need,
100% humidity.
I understand
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Safety was a big reason as well. You know, on occasion these buildings were prone to catch fire.
Absolutely.
And
so
two, you know, it also alleviated, you know, it gave you some extra space over here in the cabin as well. So 3 big reasons why really the kitchen would typically have been separate.
I see we have some visitors here.
Yeah,
Can you introduce me?
Sure. This is Carolyn Dilda. Carolyn is actually the founder of the Catawba Valley Cooking Guild. And they have been associated here with the site for 20 years, Carolyn? Yeah, 20 years,
wow.
right.
Congratulations on that as well. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and we love having them here. They add such depth here to our interpretation at the site.
I'm looking forward to learning all about it.
Yeah, and this is Clarissa Clifton. Clarissa has authored several cookbooks, which we do carry here in our gift shop. Yay. And so she has a wealth of knowledge on foodways of the enslaved and what diets would have consisted of in that time. So we're very fortunate to have her here today as well.
Very cool. So Carolyn, tell me, your cooking guild, what generally do they do here at James K. Polk State Historic Site?
We are a teaching group as well as research. So we teach hearth cooking skills and we demonstrate all through the Southeast region.
Wow.
So we have been to a lot of places and we do a lot of demonstrations here at Polk and other places. And I think that Foodways is a good way of teaching history because everybody eats, everybody can relate to food.
Absolutely.
Learning what it was then, where our ancestors got their food, how they prepared it, and how we get it now and how we prepare it.
That's important.
It's important.
Right.
It makes a good comparison.
And everybody can connect to that.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And Clarissa, tell me a little bit about your experience with foodway history.
Well, my passion for foodways started with my grandmother who always had her wood burning stove.
Nice.
And we were like, we don't understand. There's no knobs or no dials on it. How do you turn this on? And I like food and I like history.
So you
food
put it all
history
together.
is perfect. You get to eat and be in history at the same time.
Very good. So is there anything y'all can show us today?
We do have some things cooking inside, so if you'll come with me, we'll show you.
Thank you very much. Going in the kitchen.
We
Hello.
have several things at the fire, but we also are putting together a pie that we'll be putting into the bake oven.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself for our viewers?
I'm Sharon Van Kuren, member of the Historical Cooking Guild, and what I'm working on this morning is something that I think you young people would be very interested in. I know you all like apple pie.
Absolutely. I love apple pie.
This one is very special. This one, in the backcountry of North Carolina, we ate what we call seasonal foods. Everything was what was growing and what we could gather and what we could get. And so for the housewife, she spent a lot of her time putting up foods that she needed for the rest of the year. We're in January, and if you remember last week with the snow, it really told us it was winter. So what the women did over the course of the year would to take some of their foods and dry them, or salt them, or pot them, or pickle them. But today we have dried apples, which, as you can see, these are just pieces of apples that we've dried, and then we put them up and take them out of the crock. And what we do with them at this point in January is we reconstitute them.
All right.
So
and what do you use for that?
Well, this is special.
That's the secret ingredient?
This is a special thing. We'll put them in some water,
Okay.
or some apple cider if we have some,
Yeah.
or maybe even a little touch of brandy if we have some.
Mm.
And then we'll use our spices, our cinnamon, and we'll grate them. This is children's chores. This definitely would have been done by the children. We'll put them into a big bowl, and we're going to mix them up. And then we're going to pour them into what we call it our paste. You call it your crust. And as you can see, look how beautiful this
Oh,
is.
yeah. There's syrup in there.
Oh, well,
Or
there's
that's the liquid,
cinnamon.
right?
It's the
Right, it
liquid
looks
in
like
there. And then you've
it's
got
thickened
all
up a
that
little bit.
wonderful, wonderful flavoring coming
I can
through
smell
this.
it.
Can you smell it,
Yes.
Sally?
I wish we had smell-o-vision. Wow, so
would.
cinnamon to me seems pretty exotic. Would that have been a spice a lot of people would have had?
That would have been a spice, especially here in the back country if the peddler had come through
Okay.
and she would buy her spices, she would buy her nutmegs. Everything would have been whole. They would have come
Okay.
up from the Caribbean through the port of Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was lucky enough to have him come, she would make sure she had stock for the rest of the year. So as a good housewife, we always are looking forward to keeping our,
That looks lovely.
isn't that gorgeous?
That
It's
is
very
beautiful.
easy paste, just one crust, one paste as we
Right.
called it, turned over. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take it over to our bake kettle over here, and we're going to put it in. As you can tell, I'm
I'm following you. I'm not sure. All right, Carolyn's got to go in there.
Carolyn has lifted the lid for me. I'm going to drop it in. It's very hot. As you can see, on the bottom are the hot coals, which we've scooped out from the fire, and the hot coals on the top. So in the same amount of time that you're going to bake at home, I can bake it here in the oven.
Let's see if we can get a closer look at this.
Let's see if we can add a little bit more to the
Some more coals?
explanation. We're going to put a little bit more coals.
So you've got some underneath and some on top. You used a S-hook to lift up the lid. Carolyn did.
Yes, we did.
And so how long do you think that would take to cook?
Well, our
Or to bake.
fire's pretty good now. I would say a good 40 minutes, maybe 45.
All
We'll
right.
check it. Interesting thing when you do hearth cooking like this, it's the smell sometimes. Just
I
like
bet
at
you
home.
know, right.
You'll
you know when
know.
it's done.
You'll know.
Carolyn, tell me what else we've got going on over here.
We have a chicken that is roasting on a string.
All right, that we've got to get a close-up of. I'm sorry, this is amazing.
And that may be the chicken that is quit laying eggs, isn't laying so much, so we are going to have her for supper tonight.
Okay.
You don't need a lot of pots and pans. You can just roast on a string like that. The other thing we're cooking today is a soup. Soups, one-pot meals would be very important back then. This one has chicken in it, but you might have squirrel if James K. Polk had been lucky enough with his traps.
Okay.
A rabbit, maybe some deer, whatever meat you have. But if you hadn't been so lucky with his trapping, you've got a vegetable soup. So the vegetables that we're using are things that we grew during the summer. And we've stored them either in the root cellar or in the barn. And potatoes, carrots, turnips, pumpkin, cabbage, dried peas, just anything.
Quite a variety.
Quite a variety of things.
More than I would have thought.
You don't want to use it all at one time necessarily because we're only halfway through winter time.
So you have to space it out.
You do have to space
Definitely have to space it out. We have to make sure that we have enough to last. Now remember, we're not going to plant out in the garden until probably the middle of March.
Okay.
So the housewife really uses her plan to make it extend through the whole cold of winter.
So you wouldn't necessarily have a chicken every day. Like you're saying, if that's one that stopped laying eggs, sorry, you got to get.
Right.
You
Even if you were my pet chicken, I just like.
You could have squirrel,
Uh-huh.
rabbit,
Deer,
Possum.
if the water's flowing,
Possum.
fish.
Fish, ducks, birds, whatever
You could find.
Whatever.
Right, so we are on the, what is it, Sugar Creek River here in
That is
Pineville,
right.
right? So,
Creek.
yeah, a creek.
We call it a river, but you know, it's a
Yeah,
source of
there's just
water.
something out there that they can maybe catch.
But
Who
doesn't
knows?
that look delicious,
It
Sally?
looks amazing, amazing.
And it might be the younger children or James' sister Lydia that gets the job of spinning the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
We're counting on James to keep enough wood chopped and split and
Right.
brought in, so all the children are going to have chores to do.
So we were talking about this was kind of a middle class or upper middle class farm, but maybe to some of our viewers, they're like, really? Because this looks kind of rustic, but at the time, pretty nice living.
Very nice living
Very
for the
nice,
time
very
period.
It's very nice living for the time period. Wow, that looks great. It feels wonderful. It smells wonderful. This is terrific. So you were talking about seasonality. So when is the most bountiful time of the year? When do they eat best?
Probably late summer, early fall. That's when everything's coming in.
Okay,
You slaughter the hog
right?
in the end of November, December, so you finally have fresh pork.
Yeah. And
So they're going to savor that, especially through Christmastide.
okay.
And the vegetables that, as Carolyn said, is we put up in the crocks, or we may have our potatoes and carrots, some stored upstairs in
Okay.
straw. But it's a planning. It's a careful planning.
Constantly measuring, and you don't know when company might be coming.
This is true. This is true. And especially for the younger girls. Girls today do not cook like the girls of the past.
Mhm.
They would be right at our side, especially we as grandmothers
Mhm.
would always have our granddaughters at our side to take our place. They don't know what to do. The mother may have other chores she has to do.
I see.
So it was a constant lesson, a
Mhm.
constant
Just managing
practice.
of resources,
Exactly.
time, of energy, every
Exactly.
single day. You're thinking short term, midterm, long term on how you're going to feed your family and anybody else who shows up over a period of time.
That is
that right?
correct. That's
Right.
That
So
is-
food is more than just nourishment; it's survival, right?
Very
you
much
you
so
have
survival.
to have it, and you got to think about how to constantly replenish
exactly.
and go for it. Because I'm guessing you just didn't go to the Kroger and buy what you need.
No, there were a few stores in Charlottetown when James was a boy, but most of it you're growing, you're hunting, you're foraging, you're doing for yourself.
I see.
And then being good friends, I may grow one vegetable of abundance and she may, and we may barter back and forth.
Mhm.
So both families would have what we needed.
Very, very neat. Wow, that's excellent. Well, I know we have some other cooks over here. I know they're doing some prep work back here. If we can just take a peek. Because in a minute, I'm going to see if maybe one of you, Sharon, if you'd walk me out to the garden, we can talk about that. That would be great.
I'd love to.
So we have Cheryl and Clarissa here. What if y'all getting ready to demonstrate some other foods?
Yes, we're going to make hoe cakes today.
Oh, all right.
Which for the enslaved community is very important because not only can we make hoe cakes as us being the cooks for the family, but if you're a field slave, you can actually take a hoe, wash it off. It's a griddle. And you're able to take out your cornmeal and some water and fry hoe cakes out there in the fields as well to sustain yourself.
All right.
The other thing we did today, we made sweet potato biscuits, which are delicious.
All right. Well,
For the enslaved community, the sweet potatoes would extend the flour so you wouldn't need as much and also give sweetness. So you don't have to put sugar in because sugar, flour, salt had to be purchased.
very cool. All
So-
right. Well, I look forward to seeing and smelling and hearing a little bit more about that. We're going to go visit the garden and we'll be right back. So they were talking about the garden and growing your own foods, and there is a garden here at the President James K. Polk State Historic Site. And yeah, it's January, and I want to go look and see what's going on there. Sharon, so do volunteers work in this garden throughout the year?
At times, there's some of the staff work. It's kind of a balance between the two. Usually we have a lot of help in the spring and the heat of the summer here in North Carolina.
Sure.
It's a little bit different, but the garden itself, as you can tell, is well fortified with the wattle fencing.
All right, so they're keeping the children out, animals out, children in.
Let's keep the children in and the animals out.
Children in, animals out. So I hear there might be a volunteer opportunity available for
There's
people who might.
always volunteer opportunities for people, especially who like to garden.
Okay.
Because the more that come, the merrier. And as you can tell right now, we're in January.
Right, a winter garden.
It's a winter garden. At this point in time, there's not a whole lot going on. As the housewife would be, she's waiting now for March.
March is the
But
key
she'll
time.
come out to she'll look. She's got some gorgeous sage right here that she can still use in some of her preparation for foods. And over here, a little trick that she's done. Let me show you this, Sally.
Yep.
This is interesting. Do you like asparagus?
Yes.
Well, these are asparagus plants.
Wow.
And if you look underneath, you can see what the remainder from last year. And so what they did is called a tucking in. So they would cover it with the straw.
It's like putting it to sleep.
Putting it to sleep. And probably by the end of March, depending on our weather here, things will start to green up.
It's amazing to see asparagus because it gets so tall. You never think about it when you get those little stalks at the store, but they're really tall, huge plants. It's amazing.
Very tall, and then the ends when they first come are just little teeny tiny, almost smaller than my finger. And they're very tender and they're very,
That's the
very
best
good.
time to eat them.
It's the very best time to eat.
I
In
see
the
something back here.
Yes, we have some others. Here we've got some kale,
Right?
which is good greens. Remember now this is winter.
Right. I always think collards.
Think
but
collards.
greens.
The carrots, we've got some carrots here. We pulled one carrot today. You can see in the soup today would have been the carrots here from the garden. But greens, they're especially looking for greens. If you think about how long winter is, and you're confined and you're limited to salted foods and dried foods,
Right.
when these
Anything.
things are still in abundance, you're going to use them. By the time we get to the end of March and they're planting, they are very excited as to looking for fresh things.
Okay.
Because then in March, you're going to get your eggs again,
Yeah.
and you're going to have milk again because the cow has
The
had
cows
its
come
calf.
in. Right.
So things are looking better
at
than
that
they're
time.
doing right now.
So they didn't know about like vitamins and things, but they had learned maybe through just practice that eating any kind of green they could get was probably better for them than not.
Green is good. They grew a couple of things here. Unfortunately, our mountain mint is past.
Mountain mint.
But if you look at the bottom, you can see some green.
Yeah.
So they'll be
Can
coming
get a close
up.
up of that. Maybe so. I don't know. But oh, I can even smell it.
Yeah. can you
Nice.
smell it?
Yeah, I can smell that
This would
mint.
have been put in a tea.
Okay. Is that more medicinal or flavoring or both?
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Tastes good and good for you.
This mint is good with your carrots.
Oh, okay.
And this is wormwort.
Wormwort. That doesn't sound very appealing, I got to tell you.
It isn't really appealing to because if you do get worms, then a medicinal would be made of a tea.
Okay, and that would take care of that.
That would take care of a lot of things.
I see.
A lot of things.
I know this.
You
This
know
is
this one?
rosemary.
Rosemary is one of our wonderful suppliers.
Smells
for,
wonderful.
doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
In chicken, in soups, we'll put some in the soup today. All different things that you can use the rosemary
It's a
for.
wonderful-
And
wonderful
two, think about being in the kitchen house all closed up all winter with the smells of the smoke, and you take some of this rosemary and just lay it on the counters or in the window ledges, and as the breeze comes in, it'll kind of be like a air freshener for
Oh,
you.
very good.
So
very good.
it has many uses. It has many
Yeah, I
uses.
expect so in the age where bathing was not as common.
Bathing was not as common, especially in the winter. They always say a true lady can bathe in a pint of water. If you can imagine that.
No, I really can't.
Where she would.
Oops, are you caught?
What's part of my
That's-
petticoat?
Party of it.
But some of the other things here in the kitchen, over here in the corner, the tree here
Yeah.
in the back, that's a persimmon.
Have
you ever
persimmon
tasted-
fruit? Yeah.
Have you ever tasted
Yes,
persimmon?
I have puckered up my mouth sometimes with persimmon.
We never touch them here as the cooking guild until after the first frost,
Okay.
and then they make a delicious pudding.
Very
Very,
good.
very good pudding.
So when you say pudding, do you mean dessert or do you mean that creamy, thick stuff? What do you mean? Is it
Inter-
both?
It's an interesting word because pudding in the 18th century is like a pie.
Mm-hmm.
It can be made boiled in a cloth bag.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's what I.
It could be put in a paste.
Okay.
So it has different connotations when you study the 18th century cooking. Some of the words are a little bit different, and it makes it interesting when you're learning the process.
I see some trees back through here. So tell me about those.
In the back of the apple would be the orchard. So if they had,
had an
apples,
orchard.
especially, would have been important to the backcountry housewife. Especially even when James was here, you're growing apples. If you have apples, you have fresh fruit.
Right.
You're going to dry them as we did in for the
Right.
kitchen.
Preserving.
You're going to make apple cider,
Mm-hmm.
apple butter,
Mm-hmm.
and if it sits around long enough, you'll have a good apple jam.
Oh yeah.
So
right.
it takes care of many, many different needs.
And we were talking earlier, apples come from Europe. They were not native to America. Cherries were, but it's interesting to me because of their heritage, you know, just everybody was growing apples. I think that's kind of cool.
And it could
Different
relate
foods
back
from
to the
different-
Scotch-Irish here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's go back in the kitchen if that's all right, and let's see what Cheryl and Clarissa are up to.
Yes.
And if they're not ready, we're going to watch them get ready. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
What have we got going on?
We're frying hoe cakes.
All right, so hoe cakes are made with,
Cornmeal and water. But you render, for the fat to fry them in, you use salt pork. That is the salt and the fat.
let's see
to
if we can
make
get a close-up of that. Let's see if I can get a close-up. So you're rendering the fat, that's like bacon.
Right.
That's like bacon, and so that would have come from a hog that had been,
Prepared, salted and cured,
Right.
so that it would last for the year.
oh, I can hear it
And
sizzling.
you can hear it sizzling, and this is a quick bread. Most of the breads would have been quick bread.
Okay.
You make the stews, and then you just make a quick bread to end up serving with it.
Very good.
And this fire is very hot.
Yeah, so they're going to cook quickly.
And
So Cheryl, what goes into a hoe cake?
Well,
You're
for this
telling-
one, it's just the cornmeal with water.
Just cornmeal and water, the most basic.
Basic.
So has this been what the Polks would have eaten, or the enslaved people who lived here, or both?
probably at certain times both, especially during harvest or when it's time to put in a crop, because you are working from sunrise to sunset society.
Okay.
So the stews, if I put 6 quarts of water in a pot, I can let it cook all day long.
Okay.
You make a quick bread that take like about 3 minutes or so on each side, and you're ready to eat, because you have to remember you do not have electricity with electric light bulbs. You had to make candles, so you're not wanting to burn up your light source.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much when it gets dark, it's time to go to bed,
I see.
so they can get up the next morning to start the day all over again.
That smells great, and that is cooking really fast.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, our dried apple pie is still going strong over here, baking away. Excellent. So Cheryl, tell us what else you got going on.
We have the potato biscuits, the sweet potato biscuits here. This
Now, sweet potatoes
is
are,
another shortbread
yeah,
that is made easily with sweet potatoes, flour, salt, lard.
And some syrup to
Uh,
sweeten it up a little bit.
okay.
It's
Very-
absolutely delicious.
Very good, very good. And so there were enslaved people here at James K. Polk State Historic Site, as well as the Polk family. My understanding is that they worked in field together, they worked in the home together, but there still was a difference.
There's a difference. Because of the Polk site being more middle class, where they're at here at this location, they, 2 slaves came with them through the wife,
Okay,
through an inheritance.
okay,
But if you're on like a large plantation, which is what they eventually moved to,
Right, out in Tennessee.
There are 3 levels of slaves. There's the house slave, there's the skilled slave, and then there's the field slave. The house slave would have been the closest to the family. You're on duty 24 hours, 7 days a week. The skilled slave is the one that has the greatest chance of earning their own money to buy their freedom.
Okay.
The blacksmith, maybe there's a woodsmith on site. You know, someone who's really good with animals like a butcher.
Cheryl, you want to get over here and get
Yes,
in there
I'm
and
gonna-
help Carissa out?
There you go. Thank you. And of course, the field slave, which is the largest amount we know, usually it's because they're located near the field, because of course there are no cars at this time. So you're located near where you work. So on a large plantation, they probably would have been located a half mile to a mile out from where the main family lived at.
Right.
The other thing of being the field slave is they actually had time off during the year. You work hard during certain times, and also when the sun goes down, you are on your own. So you don't have to worry about the 24/7 service that the house slave has to give.
So, and Sharon and Carolyn, feel free to jump in here in the conversation about the life here at for the Polk family with the enslaved people. My understanding was the enslaved people would have maybe lived in the kitchen cabin. Is that right?
Possibly, we don't know.
Don't know
We
for
have
sure,
any
but you think
indication
that?
of a slave.
And so, do you think they would have eaten together or eaten separate? My understanding is probably the Polks would have eaten over there, and probably the enslaved people would have been kept.
The food would have been taken from the kitchen to the main house.
But Mrs. Polk was involved in food
Mrs. Polk was giving direction.
giving
She would have
direction
given
to her
direction for the
children,
day.
to the enslaved people for food preparation, and
Yes.
for running the farm
Yes.
as well. Okay, interesting. So here we've got Cheryl. I don't know if I can get a close-up of this. Cheryl is putting more hoe cake batter in. I feel for everybody out there who's watching who's not going to get to taste this. I'm sorry about that. But we have recipes, or receipts as they called them in the 18th century, as one of the resources available to you. I think we have receipts for the sweet potato biscuits, for hoe cakes, and for that dried apple pie. So I hope y'all will take an opportunity to make that at home and give it a try. I think you're going to love all that. Very good. Neat. So what are other receipts that you prepare when you're interpreting African American foodways? Some of these foods are from Africa, right? And originated there.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things, there's something called a bean pie.
Okay, a bean pie.
That is delicious. But one of the things of converting it over is the sweet potato pie.
Okay.
The bean pie tastes like a very spiced with nutmeg and mace sweet potato pie. So you can see that. The other thing that you can see is jambalayas and gumbos.
Okay.
I do a dish that's called a tagine style chicken, which you can see from that with the tomatoes and everything, how the enslaved who first came over on the slave ships were trying to get back to the foods they had, so the jambalayas and the gumbos. In fact, last weekend I made a deer jambalaya.
Deer jambalaya.
And most of the docents at Smith are from up north, so they have never had deer, and I didn't tell them until they started eating it. They thought they were eating a very well-aged porterhouse steak.
Wow.
And that's like, no, you're eating deer.
That's
but
interesting.
It's delicious. I mean, especially when you're talking about game, it's very lean. And it's very flavorful. So unlike the day where we make meat our main dish, just a little bit of game in a dish will flavor it
For a long
beautifully.
time. Very good. Carolyn, what have you got there?
Well, I have the chicken that's finished. We had it roasting earlier, and I've taken the string off, but it looks as good as any chicken.
Absolutely. Better than many.
So we'll set it on the table and get ready to serve it.
Y'all don't know about my cooking skills, so this is amazing. And I hope our viewers can notice the juxtaposition of light and dark in this kitchen cabin. We've got a door open, we've got windows open, we do not have any candles burning, we've got light from the fire, light from the sun. If it was a rainy day, we wouldn't have that.
And it was really cold and you had to close the windows and doors. It's very dark.
Very dark, very smoky, and that's just the way things were, because candles were expensive to make. Candles were not something used all the time. We're getting a beautiful table set. We still have things cooking, smelling great. Oh wow, look at the pie. All right,
We're going to show you how this
let's see.
soup was served.
Let me see if I can get a close-up of that.
Okay. First of all, you have to look at this plate, Sally, because this has
Okay.
this has your toasted bread,
I see it.
which you would moisten with the
Mm.
look at all
That's
those
wonderful.
good vegetables.
Good for you.
All good for you. The
Oh, that
carrots and
smells
the potatoes.
amazing.
Very, very good. And this is how they would have eaten. So the bread would sop up the juices.
Okay.
And therefore, and then you would just eat it.
Do you think they baked bread every day, once a week, and stored it?
I don't think they baked every day, no.
Because baking is a huge ordeal.
Baking's a huge ordeal. They would bake and then eat. Here in the the 18th century back country, you have to remember whatever is prepared when the ladies prepare, when we prepare, it's eaten right away.
I
What
see.
is left is the next meal. So if you don't like what you have at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm sorry, but you're going to get it for the evening meal. And if you don't like it at the evening, you're going to have it for breakfast.
Until it's gone.
True.
Until it's gone.
True.
So no refrigeration.
No.
You might have a cool spring house, but that's not going to keep things for very long.
Exactly.
And there's no need to just keep cooking things when they're going to go bad. Is that right, Carolyn?
That's correct.
Okay. So Shirley, you're just going and going and going.
Yes, it's
So
almost done.
that's great. So what other foods do you believe would have been prepared, say, in July that are not prepared right now in January? What would you do different?
Well, you have all your berries. You're having all your berry dishes, your pies, your berry pies, your peaches. Oh,
Peaches. Peaches also from Europe originally, not from America.
And you put those up in crocks to have them for this time of year because they'd be in the sugar sweet.
Very
There's
good.
so many different things. I think that the most interesting, though, is if you were a student like the ones who are watching us right now, and in the backcountry, and eating, you know what you might have for the evening meal?
What's that?
Just pie.
Just pie.
Just
That sounds good to me.
Can you
just
imagine
pie.
that? Just pie.
All right. Well, are we going to get to try anything?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me get Cheryl and Clarissa to finish up their current batch.
We're finished.
I'm telling you what, that cooks quickly.
It's basically.
And I guess that's part of it. That's one of the points, right? For it to cook quickly. If you're an enslaved person, you got lots going on. You may be called at any moment. You got to have food quick. Is that right, Cheryl?
Yes, that is very correct. You know, this could have been made out in the field.
Okay.
Because they could have had a little pouch of the cornmeal and
Okay.
had some water. So when lunchtime came, the hoe, they make a little fire, they use the hoe. That's the purpose of the hoe.
The actual
That's the grill.
hoe.
That's
Exactly.
Actual hoe. They're not carrying around a skillet.
No.
They're literally
Hoe is
putting a
Wash
hoe.
it off. It's a griddle.
Wow. That's where the hoe cake comes from.
Right,
Now we know. All right. So you said that earlier, and I was like, I'm imagining them. They're carrying a skillet out in the field because that seems heavy.
It's an actual hoe.
It's
So
an
the hoe
actual
cakes
hoe.
would have been probably more like around this size.
Right.
Today we think of huge pancakes. But
Right.
it would have been just a little.
Right.
'Cause they
oh,
were
look
eating
at that
just
chicken.
survive.
That is hot. Wow. Wow.
Please try some.
Let's all try some. I can't be alone. I'm going to jump in on this. Is that all right?
Yes.
And I'm going to try some of everything. That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. And I haven't had breakfast today, so I'm really happy.
And then you can have piece of the whole cake on with that.
Right.
I'm going to try some of this hoe cake. All right, so I've got to go for this.
Oh, the salted pork.
Yeah.
Oh, it is
Everybody's
delicious.
like, I want.
Now, do you ever do fatback?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we do fatback too. I considered doing fatback today with this.
Isn't
I'll see
it?
y'all later. I'm really
Right?
This is amazing.
Yeah.
That
And
is
then
really
the sweet
good.
potato biscuits, which could be
You know,
a
it's so
sweet treat.
tender.
It's
That's
very,
so
very
tender.
tender.
I'm amazed at that. Wow. Okay. I'm having a good time. All right, I need the cider. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Applejack. She knows me very well.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to try the sweet potato. What a great texture.
Yeah, I don't know why we stopped doing it because they're easy too.
They're easy. So
They're
what do you do
easy.
with the sweet potato? You grate it, or
No, you boil the sweet potato until it
Oh,
falls apart. That's the only moisture in the biscuit. It
Wow,
is not
that
al dente or anything that we do today. You boil it until you stick a fork in it and it falls apart.
These people knew how to live, and here I was thinking they were roughing it. It's all right. I'm going to use my fingers and grab some chicken. And we're sticking, I think, like a 400-degree oven. Blah blah blah.
Well, this is where it comes from. That's what it is here.
I'm sorry. My camera person wants a biscuit. We're very busy. All right, I'm saving.
Okay, you're learning about the pie, the dried apple pie. You'll notice
chicken
when
is
I
great.
served it to you, there's no crust.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
It's
served
just the
this
pie.
way. The paste is a vessel to prepare.
Okay. Okay.
We
All right.
serve it with a spoon. We don't slice it.
That, you know, as someone who, when I bake pies, I'm never able to get the piece out. Whenever I serve apple pie,
Yeah.
it might as well be with an ice cream soup. So I'm not good with cutting crust. Mm.
It's delicious.
It is.
I'm sorry, I'm a little surprised, I gotta tell you. Because I was
It is delicious. Yeah.
about how good it is, because I was looking at this and I'm like, I'm going to be eating shoe leather pie in the not too distant future, but this is scrumptious. Wow, it's so
It shows you
rich.
what you can do with dried foods. And actually, this is something that the moms and grandmothers today can do. You can sometimes you buy dried apples in a bag.
Right.
You can experiment and do it yourself.
Right.
And make
And get the consistency you want and the spice thing. And it sounds to me like a lot of what you're saying, even though we have posted receipts or recipes, when I asked y'all for those, you were kind of like, well, I mean, they existed, but you kind of use what you have, and you use the skills that you have, the spices you have,
Yes.
the knowledge you have, and what
you
else,
know,
Cheryl?
The major spice was salt
Oh, okay.
to flavor everything, to bring out the flavor for almost all the meals.
Well,
But
this
to
is,
bring out the flavor, not so you only taste salt.
oh no,
No.
that's never good. And salt was also important for life.
Right.
And they didn't know that. I'm gonna try one more nibble of the chicken. And then I think, oops, we might have some questions from some students. And I feel really bad that I'm the only one. This is rude. I'm really happy. We might have some questions from some students. Are we able to safely leave this and go outside and answer some questions?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Yeah,
Are we good?
that's just one.
Before we go outside, is there anything else you want to add that we didn't get to today? Because I feel like I'm running the conversation.
This tastes much better than being cooked on a modern stove.
Oh.
It really does. Once you do this,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to cook at home.
You think it's worth it. Carolyn, what about you?
Oh, I much prefer food cooked on the hearth.
Do you as well?
It is good.
It's interesting. The food cooked on the hearth is excellent. When you take it home and taste it again,
You know
it
something's
is not the
missing.
same.
You know
It
something's
is not-
missing.
You have to eat it here.
Eat it here, eat it
If
now.
we take leftovers home and we have it that evening, it's like
Not quite the
not
same.
quite the same.
I'm just getting one more bite of apples.
It's not quite the same.
This is really
So
good.
you see, people
They ate well. They ate well. They could really eat well. But I think if we tried to calculate the number of hours it would have actually taken to hunt, gather, trade, what do you think? Is this a month's worth of work all encapsulated here?
Oh, for food, for eating, it's the hunter-gatherers spend the least amount of time to eat, but you have to be in the middle of the jungle basically, so you can just step out your door
And grab something.
and grab something. When you go to agriculture, that's when we spend all the hours from sun up to sundown trying to prepare food, because you don't have the environment where you can just step out.
That's true. And the one interesting thing I think for the students to know is the larger meal is served at 2 in the afternoon. So you're spending the morning hours doing the preparation and cooking, and then having the meal, and then the leftovers would be for evening.
So you would start the big meal of the day was in mid-afternoon because of light, right?
That's one, because you don't want to have to clean up in the dark.
Right.
That's true. And you saw this morning how long it took to get the fire going.
Yeah.
You want to get the fire going. A lot of times when we're having our lessons as a cooking guild, we'll be here at 9 in the morning. Well, the fire really isn't ready till well after 10.
So it's an all-day.
It's an all day, and the
Yes.
other side of it is, you have to watch this fire go out. So Carolyn and I cannot just walk out the door when we finish doing what we're doing.
Everything has to be quiet,
Banked.
Yeah.
all
Put
the
out.
fire out.
And all the women, and this was women, this
Yes.
was
Oh,
Women's
yes.
World,
Yeah, men did not cook.
Women's World, doing this. They weren't just doing this, right?
Oh no.
Women have
were-
always
yeah,
been
that's
the
right.
I mean, they
ultimate
were-
multitaskers.
Yeah, they were washing, and if they had a baby, they was taking care of the baby at the
Took care of the
same
kitchen
time.
gardens,
The garden.
making your clothes.
Right, they're doing textile
So-
work.
Yeah, this time of year, especially if they're knitting,
Mm-hmm.
they're making their new petticoats, their new short gowns. This is the time you're doing this. You had visitation over the Christmas season with relatives, so you're spending some time with women because a lot of the time the women were isolated.
Yeah.
So whenever a friend came to call, it was a special time.
I have to believe, I mean, the state of being enslaved is so challenging to wrap your mind around. I wonder about the challenges and the difficulties and the necessities of any friendships or trust that might have developed.
That's one of the things about, like, we're in January right now.
Mhm.
This is the time when slaves are sold. So once the landowner has taken all the crops, and it's just like today, farmers pretty much live crop to crop.
Right.
You know, do I have enough money to pay off my bills? All you have left at the end is to sell off these human beings that you've titled slaves. But even like with the house slaves, very well, with the field slaves, like I said, who are located maybe a mile out, you have relatives out there. So this is the time of year that you're hoping you can get the pass
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go visit relatives in the field, because this might be the last time you see them, because they might be sold before February's out.
Well, I want to thank you all for cooking this scrumptious meal that would have taken hours, days, weeks, months of gathering and all that to do. I do think it's time for us to get out and see if we have any questions we can ask. Thank you for this. This isn't going anywhere, right? Because we're doing this.
No.
So if you haven't had time to type in any questions on our YouTube comments page, now is the time to do it. We're going to be joined by Kate, who also works here at the President James K. Polk State Historic Site. Welcome. Thank you for having us here. We really appreciate it. She's an interpreter and educator here, so she's an expert on the Polks and this site, and we've got all these other experts. So do we have any questions?
Did everyone have a cookbook?
Did everyone have a cookbook?
No.
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 But there were cookbooks.
There were cookbooks available, but can you read?
Right.
Here in the back country, there might not have been as much literacy as we have today. So what you were learning was cooking at your mother's knee. We talked inside about the children would be with mom learning. So you might have a cookbook, you might not.
What else?
What was the most expensive or valuable of the spices?
Pepper. Black pepper. It came a long distance. Very, very valuable.
There was a time when pepper was as expensive as gold.
Yeah, during the
that's true.
Crusades.
Cheryl, you were going to
when they
add
really
something?
Met with pepper.
I love pepper.
Do we know President Polk's favorite dish?
No. We do not.
You don't? Sharon says no.
No.
No, yeah, when
Gotta love
President-
those apples though, I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think about when President Polk was a little boy. He was not the president yet. He was just an average little boy. And being an average family and an average little boy, nobody thought about recording what your favorite things were or even what your house was like, what your daily life
They
was
weren't
like.
keeping baby books.
Yeah,
like we do
exactly,
today.
exactly. And they didn't think of themselves as anything special. So we don't know a lot of those kind of little details you might know about someone who is famous their whole life. Right.
Very good question.
All right, we've got a question from Whitney's class. She'd like to know what type of chores or contributions did the children give to the kitchen?
What chores or contributions did children, the Polk children, there were 5 here, did they make?
Churn butter.
Churning butter.
Well, they would have gone to get the water. We need water here, especially in the morning to get going. They would have been doing that all day with the yoke on their shoulders and the 2 buckets going back and forth. They would be keeping the wood here for the fire. They're tending animals.
they're out in the garden getting vegetables or whatever needed to be taken care of. They're weeding. In the summer, they'd be watering.
Also picking all of the little bugs off your vegetables that might get to snack on it before you do, if you don't keep an eye on them.
I know all our viewers do all those things too.
Yeah. You have to remember, children were treated as little adults during this time period. It was the responsibility of the family to work together as a unit in order to survive.
Whitney has another question for us. Was the kitchen open all the time or only certain times?
The kitchen always opened. I'm not sure if Whitney is asking like 24/7. I can go out at midnight and get a snack, but this was the kitchen for the family, right? So it was open year round.
So the kitchen house, which is the kitchen building basically, and the kitchen yard, the area around it, were basically the busiest place on a farm, because this is where not just the cooking, but also things like the laundry, preserving food, all these different things are actually happening in and around this building. And then of course, for families where there were enslaved household members, they might actually be staying in the kitchen. So in those instances, there would be someone in this building all the time. But even if there wasn't someone sleeping in here, of course, you could go into the building at any time. You might not be in there as much at night, though.
All right, Rebecca has a question. Why did the women wear bonnets, even inside? Does it have to do with cooking?
Why do the women wear bonnets, even inside?
This is not a bonnet. This is a cap. None of us have bonnets on today. But we're wearing our caps because sometimes your hair is not as clean as you like it to be. So you can cover it with a nice white cap that can be washed and replaced and kept pretty looking. It also helps keep your hair out of the fire when you bend over if you've got your hair kind of twirled up under your cap.
Very good.
So if you think about how many of those buckets those kids would be carrying back and forth for water, if you think about how many you would need to fill up something big enough to take a bath, you can see why they didn't take a lot of baths. That's a lot of work for something that's not really necessary. So women would use their clothing, so their outer garments, their apron, their caps, to keep themselves cleaner. So they would have to take less baths.
Did President Polk visit his old home after he became president?
He did not.
Did President Polk come back and visit?
No.
No, he did not.
He only came back to North Carolina twice after he moved to Tennessee. Once to go to school at UNC, and once to do a commencement speech there after he was president.
Pretty cool.
And did the enslaved people eat with the Polks?
Did the enslaved people eat with the Polk family? We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah. And that's probably a no, but at the same time, the house slaves, which everyone thinks because they ate better, what they ate was leftovers off the plate of the Polks. So they did have their own rations, but once you have cooked and done other chores all day, you're kind of tired. So you take the least path, whereas the field slaves would actually cook from their rations for themselves. And the same with the skilled slaves.
And what will you plant next in the garden?
What's going to be put in the garden in March?
Peas.
Peas. Peas first. Peas, please.
Yeah, so once you get about 2 to 3 weeks out from the last frost, which for us is around April, so the end of March, that's when we'll start planting a lot of different stuff. We could have peas, we could have different vegetables, flowers, herbs, all of that will start going in. So lots of stuff.
I don't know if you've been able to hear today. I have heard some sirens and other noises. I just want to say that I think it's so wonderful that we have a place. You have 21 acres here at the President James K. Polk State Historic Site. We're near the city, but this is a wonderful preserve, and you get to continue demonstrating how kids lived in the past, how people lived in the past, and what life was like at this part of North Carolina in the early 1800s, late 1700s.
Absolutely,
cool.
And I don't know if you've been able to hear it also, but even when our wonderful demonstrators aren't here, this is also a great place to just come and enjoy nature.
Yeah.
We seem to have some hawks having a little bit of a turf war out here behind us. So it's a great place to come and watch birds, walk the trail, see how well you think you would do walking down our trail all the way to the Little Sugar Creek, and imagine walking back up that trail with 2 buckets on your shoulders, and just come and enjoy the nature as well as the history.
Well, thank y'all all very, very much for allowing us to visit today. Thank you for your amazing cooking skills, for the delicious food, for introducing us to this whole concept that if you understand how people eat, you really understand a lot more about who they are and what their life was like. And I think that's super important. I think we can all relate to that. I hope you'll join us for our next live stream event, which is going to be back at the museum on March 6th, when we are going to be touring our World War I exhibit. And also, I hope you remember that every single day, with your choices, your words, and your actions, you make history too. Thank you, everybody.